Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining us on this webinar today. We are going to first of all kind of start off by introducing ourselves as a team, who we are, and we're going to give a little bit of introduction into functional medicine, and then we're going to do a whistle-stop tour of the immune system. We've got some slides ready for you because each of our team obviously approaches the immune system in a slightly different way, and that's the reason that we all work together to support our patients. Now, obviously, just so that everybody's aware, this slide has been put on there just so that you know that this is not medical advice. You do need to consult with health advice or before you make any changes that we may be sort of suggesting or saying that these may be little tips so that you don't cause any problems with yourself. So today, functional medicine approach to the immune system. Now, functional medicine is an approach to the healthcare which allows us to understand the root causes. Our whole team has been put together so that we are able to support health from a very holistic approach. We have in our team, we've got 3 doctors who have all had IFM training, 1 doctor who has also had British Society of Ecological Medicine, environmental medicine training, 2 of our health coaches who have had functional medicine, health coaching training, and also an IFM trained nutritional therapist. Now, we have been put together, or we started the practice in 2015, and got our CQC registration just last year. So functional medicine, it's root cause medicine. And when we talk about root cause medicine, we're really wanting to dive down to understand what is causing the dysfunctions in people's bodies, which is expressing themselves as the symptoms, or when we put together in conventional medicine, we put it all together and we give a diagnosis. So we're working with 5 core principles within functional medicine. One of the biggest principles that I forgot when I was in conventional medicine was the innate capacity to heal. Now, the innate capacity to heal means that we have this intrinsic ability within our body to right itself and bring itself back into balance. But there's obviously something stopping us from bringing this back into balance. And that's the reason we're getting the symptoms that we're getting. The second principle is that we're all genetically unique. So genetics is part of who we are. We can't really change that, but we need to understand how your genetics works as we are dealing with symptoms. The third principle is inflammation is a root of chronic illness. Now, the reason I've highlighted this is because we're going to be talking about the immune system. The immune system is one of the roots of cause of chronic illness and is one of the biggest areas that we support within our functional medicine approach to disease. The fourth principle is a scientific approach to understanding and balancing the biochemistry. Now, there is a lot out there that's saying that functional medicine is quackery, it doesn't have any science behind it, and actually there is a lot of science behind everything that we do. We try to be as evidence supported as we can be in everything that we are doing, and we're advising our patients to do. The fifth principle is that we want to achieve a state of vitality and not an absence of disease. So I've kind of launched into this because this is functional medicine to me. This is what we do. And what we're going to talk about is that we're going to go on to talk about the triggers and things related to inflammation. So when we're talking about inflammation and the immune system, there are 5 key triggers. Now, I'm not going to go into them because as we go through the presentation, my team is going to tell you a little bit more about that. And this is really what we want you to take away from this webinar. We want you to understand about the immune system and take away some tips how you can, through some lifestyle changes and maybe some nutritional changes, start to support your immune system in a better way. Before we go on, I've just realized I've not introduced our team to you. So I'm Dr. Indra, and I am the founder, and I have been working in functional medicine for now nearly 5 years. And I have the one put together this little team, or they've all found me, it's one way or the other. So first of all, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Ailsa.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ailsa. Thank you for joining us this evening. So I've been working with Dr. Indra for a couple of years. And before that, I was working in an environmental medicine clinic.
And we have Dr. Meeta.
Hello.
And we have Shakila Shan, who is our nutritional therapist.
Hi, thank you for joining us this evening. Lovely to have you all here.
We have our 2 health coaches, Roz Connolly.
Hi there, it's good to be here tonight.
And we also have Fiona Beard.
Hi there everyone, thanks for joining us. I've gone full circle from being a nurse to going to the pharmaceutical industry to finding functional medicine, and now work as a health coach for Indra and her team.
And we have our admin team that support us. We have Sarah.
Hi.
Sarah is our patient manager, and she's the one who books all the appointments, and she's the one that holds everything together, basically.
That's right.
And then we have Elaine, who is our virtual assistant, and she does all the background support for all of us.
Hello everyone, virtual, but I do appear in person from time to time, and I've been working with this amazing team for maybe 3 years now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what do we want you to get from this webinar? As I said to you, is the understanding about the immune system. So I was going to start by going back to the basics. What is the immune system and what can we do to support it? So our immune system, as I've said here, is the balancing system within our body that helps us to protect against infections and toxins. It is always there, out there, being vigilant, being looking out to find out what is going on around us. Our immune system, as I said, is part of that, one of the principles that we work with, which is the innate ability of our body to do things. It knows what it needs to do. So when the immune system is being disrupted, and disrupted by a number of different things that we were going to talk about, it disrupts it, and it changes the balance of the immune system, and it causes certain conditions. So I thought this was quite a nice diagram to kind of understand that when the immune system is in balance, we're all okay, we're fine, we're able to see infections, see diseases, and deal with them, and then bring ourselves back to normal again. So if we have an injury, we have a trauma, we have stress, our immune system deals with what it needs to do, and then it comes back down to balance. Now, depending on our environment, our body, our nutritional status, and the degree of immune triggers that we have, we end up going into a little bit of imbalances. And that triggers the autoimmune problems that we all know about. The autoimmunity means when our body starts to recognize self as being abnormal and starts to attack its own self. And the autoimmune part of it is often associated with a number of different conditions. So we don't always just have one part of the immune system triggered here altogether. So what I'm going to do is hand you over to Dr. Ailsa, who's going to talk a little bit more about the balance of the immune system and how having an immune resilience helps you to protect against the environment and helps to protect against it in your environment.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about when I was thinking about immune resilience, I thought now is a really good time because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And what that's done for us is to actually expose a number of things about the current healthcare model, because this pandemic is costing an enormous amount to the government, but it's also, there are costs in suffering and the terrible cost of lives lost. It's also made us realise that currently we have a reactive disease care system which is just treating symptoms rather than addressing the root cause. And I feel that we actually need a radical transformation in what healthcare is and how we deliver it. And I think the other thing that COVID-19 has brought to the front is the power of community. How quickly did communities come together to support the most frail? So maybe now is the time for functional medicine to become more mainstream. As well as finding an effective vaccine to coronavirus, we need to build the immune resilience in the population. This is because coronavirus is only one infection, and there are many more out there to potentially infect us. So it makes a sense to provide our bodies with what they need to combat all infections, because it would be so difficult to vaccinate against them all. And to develop immune resilience, we need to take a whole person approach. At the moment, conventional medicine just compartmentalizes you into cardiology and respiratory and neurology and so on, whereas we are whole people and those systems all interact. Our emphasis is on healing rather than cure. As Indra said, our bodies inherently know how to heal. And our team approach addresses not only the clinical side, but also the physical, emotional, and spiritual too. What you'll find is there isn't one magic bullet, but a combination of personalized interventions which just shift people along the disease health continuum from disease further towards health. So I looked at the definition for resilience. So resilience is the ability to adapt successfully to stress and adversity. Immune resilience is the body's ability to deal with a biological pathogen successfully without developing a chronic infection or inflammation. So we need to have both immune tolerance, where the immune system will tolerate our own tissue and things that actually aren't of any danger to us, like food. If you lose immune tolerance, you start to react to foods and chemicals and other things in the environment, and may even start to react to self-tissue and develop an autoimmune condition. When you lose the tolerance, suggests that you've lost immune resilience, and it also further impairs immune resilience. So it's a vicious cycle, really. So the things that support immune tolerance and resilience are having a good nutrient-dense diet with lots of colourful foods, and that feeds into supporting the healthy population of bacteria in your gut and balancing your blood sugars, making sure you keep well hydrated, having good sleep and managing your stress. So the converse obviously disrupts immune tolerance and resilience. So if you have a nutrient poor, fibre poor, processed diet, poor blood sugar control, sedentary lifestyle, poor sleep and stress. So it's important to, that our immune system is balanced, so it recognises infections and tissue damage appropriately, and then is able to clear the waste from this efficiently without triggering the immune system to react to self-tissue. Remember, with a viral infection, the disease is not the virus. The disease is how an individual's immune system responds to the virus. We can't change the virus, but we can change how our immune system responds to that virus. I'm going to hand you over to Ros now to talk a little bit about stress.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm going to talk about the impact of stress, particularly chronic stress, has on the immune system. So our bodies are designed to have a survival response, which is really vital in case we're in a dangerous situation. I'm sure you've all heard about the fight or flight response. Well, this is to help us if we're confronted by danger and need to save ourselves effectively. The adrenal glands will release hormones into the bloodstream to get us ready to either defend ourselves or to run away as fast as we can. And this process occurs really quickly, and it's not a conscious decision. So it might look like someone pulling out in front of you in the car, and you're having to slam your brakes on really quickly. So this is when the system is working to keep you safe. And normally after a stressful event, the body will find its way back into balance. However, when you're under chronic stress, this response is being triggered regularly. It could be stresses at work, financial worries, worrying about your family. All these different things will trigger the same response because your body doesn't know the difference between a physical stressor or an emotional threat or stressor, and you end up staying in this kind of state of high alert. And what this does is it suppresses the immune system. It lowers the number of white blood cells, which are the cells that help to fight infections, and it therefore makes you more susceptible to illness. And also, if you're in fight or flight, your digestive system will slow down because more blood is sent to the muscles to fight or run away. And then, so even if you're eating a really amazing diet, your body won't necessarily be digesting the food and getting all those really great nutrients to help support the immune system. So now I'm going to talk about how we reduce stress. As with most things when dealing with individuals, unique people, it's about finding what works for you. And that's the beauty of working with a health coach and this team, because what we can do is we can help facilitate the process to help you figure out what would fit with your life, for you to create new habits that will help keep that fight or flight response working appropriately. My first tip or suggestion for helping stress management is breathing and meditation. There are many kinds of breathing techniques: diaphragmatic breathing, box breathing, counting breaths, 4-7-8 breathing. My favourite technique, and one that I've had the most positive feedback from my clients, is the 4-7-8 breathing. It's very straightforward. It involves closing your eyes, taking a deep breath in through your nose for 4 counts, holding your breath for 7, and then slowly breathing out through your mouth, I should say. Sorry about that slide, I hadn't noticed that. And breathing out through your mouth for 8 counts, and then repeating that. Now, basically the way this works is it calms the vagus nerve, and this helps the body to get out of that stressed state and back into a nice relaxed state. So it's a really great technique, and it can help in just a couple of minutes. It's also really great to do just before eating, so that your body's getting into that nice state to be able to digest your food well. So along the same lines, meditation, which obviously incorporates breathing techniques, again, great help in calming the body and the mind. Various apps you can use, as you can see on the screen. My personal favourite is the Headspace app. These apps all kind of provide you with kind of meditations from kind of varying lengths, from like 2 minutes and upwards. So it doesn't have to take a long time to reap the rewards and the benefits. You can just start with 2 minutes at a time. Again, it's got to fit with you. There's no point adding stress by worrying about fitting in your meditation. So it could be 2 minutes when you wake up in the morning, or it could be 2 minutes in the car outside the house before you go inside after a really stressful day and you don't want to carry your stress into the house, or just before you go to bed to help you get to sleep. So it's kind of trial and error, and it's about figuring out what works for you. The third thing I wanted to talk about is flow. So this is a state you get into when you're completely absorbed in an activity and you're not noticing that time's passing by, and you're really focused on what you're doing. Again, it's very personal. For one person, it might be listening to music, another painting, jigsaw puzzles, dancing, reading, cooking, exercise. But it's about taking that time out for self-care, maybe timetabling in your schedule, say 10 minutes just to do something you really love. Put your headphones on, listen to some beautiful music, or 10 minutes of karaoke, or read a book, or whatever makes sense for you. The important thing is making time to do that. And the third thing I want to talk about is don't struggle on your own. Finding ways to connect with people is really important, and share the load. I think so many of us feel that we have to be kind of Superman or Superwoman, and just to have a chat with a friend, or play a game with your family, or go for a walk, or read a bedtime story to your child. Just one of these things to make a connection and feel connected to other people. Ultimately, it's about making time for self-care. And to Fiona, who's going to talk about sleep and how this affects the immune system.
Hi everyone. Our first thing is, why is sleep important to the immune system? Is there a slide? Oh yeah. Quite a number of things here, but if I could just say, during the day, energy is used by the brain and the muscles and the digestive system. And sleep not only allows the body to rest, but it's a time for detoxification and the production of these things called cytokines, which are basically a type of protein that fight infection and inflammation within the body. And during sleep, the immune system also removes old cells and replaces it with new cells. So it's continuously regenerating throughout sleep. And so in summary, adequate sleep, and we're talking about 6 to 7 hours, promotes healthy immune system, the body's response to stress. It helps fight through its processes during the night, potential infections, and therefore minimizing risk of illness. Now, there's an awful lot of tips we could give you for sleep, but just for on the basis of this presentation, I'd like to just share with you 3 things. First one is preparation. And what I mean by maintaining a consistent sleep schedule is going to bed and waking up at the same time each day, which isn't the easiest thing to do, I realise, but it's something that is essential for your sleep pattern to be maintained. The next thing is about your actual bedroom. Not the easiest thing to keep uncluttered. However, it's important that you have a quiet room, a temperature of 60 to 70 degrees. And if your room is too bright, think about having blackout curtains or blinds. And I can tell you from personal experience, I recently moved to Harrogate, did all the investigations into the house, and it wasn't until the first night I was there that I realised there was a street light just outside my bedroom. So a blackout blinds, really, really important for me. The next item is about switching off technology. And it's very easy to think that the only time you've got to catch up on those emails, to catch up on that webinar you meant to do during the day, or to catch up on a film you've been meaning to watch forever, to lie in bed and do that. But in fact, the researchers found that blue light from all this technology not only disrupts the brain into thinking it's still daylight, but also affects the production of melatonin, which is essential for restful sleep and ensuring that your circadian rhythm recognizes the difference between day and night. And the other thing is taking, as Ros said, taking time to unwind. And that could be breathing, just doing that 4-7-8 breathing before bedtime. It could be a bit of mindfulness. It could be taking a warm bath, even chucking in some Epsom salts that detox and relax the muscles, or some of your favourite essential oils, particularly lavender, so that your body can totally relax before sleep. My next tip would be actually looking at what happens during the day. Oh, I forgot to scrubbed out.
Has it all been?
I've got a scrubbed out slide there.
Is it?
Oh, nothing on it. Can anyone see that slide?
No.
Oh,
Let me just stop the share for a second. Don't know what's happening. Is that okay?
That's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. So that, if we could go on to the next one, Indra, please.
Yeah.
So the next one is concentrating on what you do during the day. And, you know, we have to be realistic. We all have these busy days. But if you can try and focus on taking a bit of exercise, and we're not talking about running marathons or, you know, having hours and hours in the gym, 10-20 minutes, a bit of exercise. The other aspect is taking more daylight, and a lot of us have to work inside. But even sitting by a window or taking a walk in your lunch break, or even if you don't get a lunch break, taking a bit of a walk so you get out into daylight and allowing sunlight into your bedroom first thing. And I'd even go as far as saying, if you could possibly get some daylight first thing in the morning. And as I said to you, I recently moved to Harrogate. I live in a terraced house, but the first thing I do is go out and just get some daylight, even before I've had a shower. I think my neighbours have got used to me doing that now. Can't think why I'm doing it, but it is really good to get some daylight during the day. And then the third thing would be, oh, sorry, and I know this isn't always possible, but it's so good for you to just take a nap. Even if, I'm saying 20 minutes there, but even if you can shut your eyes for a few minutes, it does make a difference of what you do during the day to impact your sleep at night. And
I don't know why this keeps doing it, but carry on, Fiona. You might need to
don't worry about the slides. The third thing will be about having a nutritious diet. And I know Shaquila's going to go into a lot more detail about this, but I'm talking about having healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, antioxidants, vitamin C, B vitamins, magnesium. And the last thing would be avoiding caffeine after midday. We all like our cups of tea, cups of coffee, but they do have an impact on your sleep if you're having them in the evening. And I've also put here heavy meals and alcohol before bedtime. I'd recommend to have your last meal at least 3 hours before bed, or if you're going to have a glass of wine with that meal, have it at least 3 hours before bedtime, because otherwise you're using what should be supporting your immune system in detoxing the alcohol and digesting that food. And that's about it from me.
Thanks, Fiona. I'm going to hand over to Shakila now, who's going to talk about the food and how food can support your immune system.
Hi again, everybody. So we can eat our way to a healthy immune system by including lots of colourful vegetables with good quality fats, protein and fruit as part of our meals. All nutrients work synergistically and help chronic inflammation by supporting the body's natural defences. So what we're going to do is just take a look at 7 key nutrients that are required for better immune function. So we have vitamins A, C and D, B12 and folate, plus minerals, zinc and selenium. Now you can see from the slide that there are many sources of foods that you can quite easily include into your meals to help make healthy immune cells and build immune resilience. And what we're going to do now is just take a look at how this is going to look like as a healthy meal on a plate. Yeah. A simple way of building a nutritionally balanced plate is to think of the Mediterranean diet with foods that are rich in vegetables, herbs and spices. Also fruits, nuts and seeds, and to include lots of good quality fats and extra virgin olive oil, such as red meat, whole fish, eggs, legumes and whole grains. You could incorporate these foods into your meals by simply making a salad, a quick stir fry, or maybe a tasty curry, soup or stew. We're also going to just have a look at the impact, moving on to sugar and the impact it has on our gut and immune health. So when we talk about the immune system, we also need to think about our consumption of processed sugar, as too much sugar in the body can disrupt the immune system. Also, excess sugar can contribute to poor blood sugar regulation and an imbalance of bacteria, otherwise known as dysbiosis. And what this can do is it can put a strain on our immune system and lead to digestive problems. So here are some practical tips that you can see on your, I'm not sure if it's up, but the slide, is it? Yeah, there it is. So some practical tips to help you along the way. You can start by reducing sugar in tea and coffee. Instead, try using natural alternatives such as cinnamon or stevia, or perhaps you could try herbal teas such as echinacea and green tea. Also, limit your consumption of sugar-loaded drinks. Instead, you can try infused water by adding fresh ingredients such as berries or slices of lemon and fresh mint leaves. And finally, when reaching for a snack, opt for ones that are balanced with good quality fats and proteins and carbohydrates. A few suggestions are a smoothie, some protein balls, or some fresh fruit with a small handful of nuts. And also I'd like to touch on our gut-friendly microbes. So I'll just wait for the slide to come up.
I don't know what's happening. It just it keeps getting on. I really don't understand what's going on. But anyway.
So there it is. So we need to take good care of our gut health, as over 70% of our immune system resides in the lining of our gut. This is supported by a diverse community of bacteria, also known as the microbiota. And these trillions of bacteria, they do an amazing job to help keep our immune system in check. For example, they produce essential vitamins and they play a key role in the digestion and absorption of nutrients. So you can see why we would want to appreciate and increase our beneficial bacteria. A good starting point would be to gradually introduce more plant-based and fermented foods into your meals, otherwise known as pre- and probiotics. Our good bacteria like to munch on these foods to restore our intestinal health and help to keep us healthy and our immune system strong. So you can see that we have a lovely list of gut-friendly foods for you to experiment with, and I'm sure your microbes will thank you for it. I hope you found these nutritional tips useful, and I shall now pass you over to Dr. Nita. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Shakila. So the immune system, which seems to be designed to control microorganisms, is in fact controlled by microorganisms. The microorganisms there are about 100 trillion of them, and these form our microbiota, which Shakila mentioned, and they incorporate bacteria, viruses, fungi, and yeast. They outnumber our human cells by about 10 times, and they outnumber our human genes by about 150 times. Think of the microbiome as a vital organ of the body. It weighs in adults about 1.5 kilos, and it's metabolically as active as the liver. The microbiome is found in every opening, every surface of the body that's exposed to the outside world. So that includes your lungs, ears, nose, throat, sinuses. The skin has 1 trillion bacteria, the mouth 10 billion bacteria, and the gut 100 trillion bacteria. It's no coincidence that the gut holds the most bacteria, because as we've already said, 70% of our immune system is in the gut. Our existence with the microbiome starts very early on. We know that there are bacteria in amniotic fluid, and there's bacteria also in placenta. Our journey with the microbiome really kicks off though once we are born. As we pass through the birth canal, when we're being born, we pick up the microbiome and are inoculated with it from the vaginal canal of our mother. We also pick up the microbiome when we're put to our mother's breast, from the skin and from the milk that we'll drink from the breast. And the microbiome is unique. There's no human being on this planet that has the same microbiome. We're all different, and it also changes with age. So how does the microbiome actually control the immune system? Well, in the gut, there is a lining, and it's 1 cell thick, and it separates the outside world, which is the lumen of the gut, with the inside world of our bodies. And the microbiome helps to keep that barrier going. It enables us to absorb things that we need, and it helps to keep out things that are harmful to us. It communicates with the cells of the lining of the gut to produce mucus. And that mucus is also a very important part to the integrity of the lining of the gut. We know in diseases such as Crohn's disease that the mucus lining is very much more diminished. The microbiome also produces molecules which defend the gut lining, and molecules which will attack anything that's trying to pass through the gut-line barrier into our bodies. A very important part of the microbiome is that it also increases the activity of our immune cells as well. So what goes wrong then? Why do we develop disease? From the microbiome point of view, we call this dysbiosis. In dysbiosis, we have an imbalance where we have more pathogenic or harmful bacteria and microbes and less beneficial ones. And our relationship with our microbiome changes. We've already heard about the causes of dysbiosis: infection, trauma, stress, your diet, your sleep, your pace of life, exercise, whether you've had a cesarean section or were bottle fed at birth, and also drugs that are prescribed to you, like antibiotics, antacids, anti-inflammatories, and also whether you're genetically predisposed to disease and dysbiosis. The consequences of the dysbiosis is that it can suppress the immune system and make us more susceptible to attack. And it can also activate the immune system, making it more exaggerated, such as the autoimmune diseases. It also causes inflammation, not just at the lining of the gut, but also anywhere in the body. And that inflammation causes tissue damage, which will cause even more inflammation. And it reduces the gut barrier integrity, which means that all those things that wanted to pass through and couldn't now can, such as toxins, microbes, and food particles that can damage us. And this will lead us on to the development of disease, such as Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, obesity, irritable bowel syndrome, autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, or thyroid conditions, celiac disease, some kinds of liver disease. There's even dysbiosis seen in Parkinson's and in food sensitivities. So what can we do about it? Well, as functional medicine practitioners, we are able to treat dysbiosis, asking 5 basic questions as we go along. What do we need to remove from the gut if it's causing dysbiosis? What do we need to replace in the gut? What do we need to establish a healthy, balanced microbiome? Do we re-inoculate the gut with prebiotics and probiotics, which Shakila mentioned? What do we need to require to support the healing and the repair of the gut barrier? And very importantly, what do we need to rebalance the lifestyle of the patient, to allow them to modify their attitude and lifestyle to promote a healthier way of living? So when you're thinking about the immune system and you're thinking about keeping it strong, you're thinking about preventing or trying to treat disease, don't forget about your gut microbiome, because it's really important in functional medicine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meeta. I'm really sorry, everybody. I'm not really sure what's happened with the slides. It just feels as though maybe somebody's trying to mess around with it, but we'll have a look into that. But I guess as a summary, one of the key things that I've heard with everybody speaking is that it's all about balance. It's about making sure that we have a balanced nutrition. The nutrition obviously affects the gut, and getting the gut into balance will help our immune system. And the key lifestyle changes that we've talked about today is managing your stress, getting that into balance, and making sure we have adequate sleep to support our immune system. So thank you everybody for listening, and we're going to just open it up to the floor. And if anybody has any questions, either just send me a chat, or if you just want to speak up, and we'll find you on the screen. We have one question that has been asked from a lady that Dr. Ailsa knows of. Just to start the conversation going, really. I would like to know if fixing the immune system via a functional medicine route will cure chemical intolerances such as histamine, salicylates, oxalate intolerances. My understanding is that salicylate creates leukotrienes, which lead to asthma, or are these lifelong intolerances? There seems to be little research done in this area, but I would value your thoughts. So, Ailsa, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, as we were saying, I think it's about balancing the immune system and balancing the Th1, Th2 response, stabilizing mast cells, because when mast cells degranulate, they release cytokines like the leukotrienes. Histamines and oxalates, there's often a connection with mold or yeast. So obviously, like most things in functional medicine, it's a personalised approach. We need to look at the individual patient and what their root cause is.
I think you're right, Elsa. I mean, one of the things that I would say is also that we don't tend to cure, we tend to modulate and move you along the health spectrum, because when your immune system is triggered and there are so many different factors, we want to try and calm it down. And if once we find that we're calming things down, you tend to find a lot of your symptoms start to settle down. And that's what we want to do. There's always the risk of your immune system flaring back up when you come across other things. Mita, did you want to add to that?
I think you've hit the nail right on the head, really. That we go back to this innate system where we are triggered to just naturally heal, and we need to offer that space to the body in order to do that.
We have a question. Elsa, carry on.
I was just going to say that, you know, some people, because of their genetics, they're so-called canaries in the mine, aren't they? And they have a genetic tendency to be far more sensitive to chemicals and other environmentals.
Shakila, what would you say from a nutritional therapy point of view? Because dealing with histamine, salicylates and oxalates is one of the things we do with a lot of our patients.
Yeah, absolutely. We would sort of taking a balanced approach, because these are sort of large food groups as well that we'd need to look at. And if we're excluding oxalates, histamines and other high food groups, then that can actually really formulate a restricted diet and food plan. So working with a healthcare practitioner really helps to sort of make sure that we get the balance, and we make sure they're having good quality proteins in there, healthy fats and carbohydrates, and it's trying to find the ones that work for their biochemistry. So it's about taking that personalized approach to their food plan and sort of like working with that.
So we have a question from Wendy. Could you explain further why 20-minute nap is good? I purposely try not to nap as I thought it would affect the quality of night sleep. Yona.
Yeah, the reason for a 20-minute nap, and as I say, it can be less than that, is more of a switch off mechanism that causes a rest rather than any kind of deep sleep. And it really is a beneficial thing for the body during the day rather than affecting nighttime sleep and the depth of sleep at night.
So it's more of a rest than a sleep, yeah. So it doesn't affect you.
Yes, that's right.
We have a
Does that answer the question, Wendy?
Yeah,
yeah.
It does. We have a question from Nicola. Can rebalancing the gut microbiome help to improve gut motility? Who wants to take that, Mita?
Yes, rebalancing the gut microbiome will help with everything. I don't think we put enough emphasis on all those trillions of microorganisms that totally control everything that's in our body, and gut motility. We would also be looking at why have you got slow gut motility, but yes, anything to do with the microbiome is good.
Is there anything that you found really works with gut motility? Is there something that you tend to look for in gut motility, Mita?
No, I can't.
No, I was just thinking about things like making sure you have adequate things like magnesium, vitamin C, fiber and things like that all can help the gut motility, but it also then feeds the microbiome as well. So definitely rebalancing the gut microbiome through nutrition as well as some of the supplements can really help improve gut motility. And for me, improving gut motility also means that you're detoxifying. So that, yeah, definitely important to make sure the gut motility is there. Elsa?
I think just making sure that you're digesting your food properly, because I think motility issues can be related to things like low stomach acid, because if you've got low stomach acid, you're not getting the proper triggers that trigger the emptying of the stomach into the small bowel. And if the contents of the stomach reaching the small bowel is not acidic enough, it's not going to trigger the pancreas to release the digestive enzymes adequately, and so on. You have a knock-on effect further down the bowel as well.
I would also add to that, Dr. Ailsa, is the chewing side of things, making sure that you chew your food really well. We talk about this, you know, all the time in clinic, and it's a really good starting point. You know, we often say that there's a reason why we have teeth in our mouth and not in our stomachs, because this is where all the chewing needs to take place. So anywhere between 15 to sort of 30 times we need to chew our food before sort of moving on to the next bite. And a good way of doing that is to put down your knife and fork or your spoon and then chew your food, and then sort of pick your cutlery up and start again. But chewing your food will also really help to you know, produce digestive enzymes that are going to help with the breakdown of food lower down in the gut.
Ross?
I think also exercise is something to be considered with gut motility, because if you're not moving, if you're kind of living a kind of sedentary life, this all has an impact on the movement in your body as well. So making sure that you're kind of moving regularly throughout the day will also encourage your body to be doing these in the right way.
Next question, unless anybody has anything else to add. Can you give any advice on things like phenol intolerance? I suspect that some foods which are considered healthy have huge effect on my son. Ailsa?
Yeah, I mean, there's often a connection between high phenol foods, which are not necessarily sort of food additives and things, but they're naturally occurring in some fruits and dried fruits and things like that, can have an effect on some children's behaviour. And I think there is a link to dysbiosis in the gut with that. So I think, again, tuning up, finding out maybe what's going on in the gut microbiome, and putting some measures in place to help with that. Good idea.
I think with any food intolerances is about trying to understand what has caused the imbalance, and as Ailsa was saying, as Dr. Ailsa was saying, about understanding how the gut itself is being able to deal with these foods, and why the gut is, or why the body is now reacting, comes down to what Dr. Mita was saying about, have we got an increased gut permeability going on? So these foods that normally wouldn't cause a reaction, cause a reaction. So we tend to use a number of different things to kind of support the gut. And once eliminating is one of the things, but it doesn't work all the time, or it isn't great to do it for long periods of time. So we tend to find that once we've eliminated, we've healed the gut, replacing these foods slowly, when the gut is better, you tend to find that you have a degree of ability to tolerate them. Would you say that, Shakila?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with all three doctors there.
The next question, I hope that answers your question, Cindy. Next question is, not sure who that is, but it's, does kombucha help? Shakila?
Kombucha is an addictive drink. Once you get started, you don't want to stop. Yeah, kombucha, it's a fermented drink, and it's got lots of beneficial bacteria in there to sort of support your microbes. And I would say, if I'm just wondering if who it's come from, and it's saying, does kombucha help with just general health? I would say, yeah, absolutely. Anything that's going to support the gut bacteria is going to help with, you know, your general health and well-being. I would say that when you start eating fermented foods and, you know, pre and probiotic foods, then I would always say start slow, and then gradually increase your way up, because sometimes it can cause a little bit of gut disturbances to begin with, like bloating and flatulence and those kind of things. But then eventually, once your body begins to accept these nutrient dense foods and these beneficial foods, then you start feeling the benefits of it. So yeah, absolutely, kombucha does help.
Leading on from that,
sorry, can I just say one thing about kombucha? If you have histamine problems, you may not tolerate the fermented foods.
The next question is, I think for Mita, any thoughts on fecal implants in order to radically alter the gut microbiome?
Yeah. So there are various ways that we can actually interfere and alter the gut microbiome. And we tend to do with diet, probiotics and prebiotics, and also antibiotics will radically alter the gut microbiome. With regards to fecal implants, there's a lot of research and study going on about it. I don't think it's available in this country, but in America they have done it in people who have had serious illness with bacteria like Clostridium difficile. But it's still being, I'm not sure actually, in fact, if the CDC in America have actually approved it yet. They may have.
I think there's one clinic in the UK that does fecal transplants, but I'm pretty sure they won't be up and running at the moment.
The next question is, how does smoking affect the gut? Ailsa.
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me.
only with your background in environmental medicine.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
ask somebody else.
Go on, Mita.
Okay. Well, smoking causes serious consequences with the gut. It harms the digestive system. It can cause heartburn, peptic ulcers. It increases your risk of inflammatory gut diseases like Crohn's, may even cause the gallstones. And of course, it affects the liver and the way that the liver can handle drugs and alcohol. So yeah, smoking is really bad. And I'm sure your microbiome will not thank you for it. But it will affect everything. It will affect the way we absorb and digest, and it will stun how we release our enzymes, and there's nothing good about it. Everything bad you can think of, that's how it will affect it.
I was thinking along the lines of the toxins that you're taking in as well with smoking. And when you have toxins within your body and your body's immune system is trying to deal with it, it produces what we call oxidative stress within the body. So then that causes more inflammation to try and calm the oxidative stress down. So when you've got that on top of other lifestyle issues, you just find that it causes an increased stress within the body, and it disrupts the immune system as well.
You will also find that for those who smoke, you will have less vitamin C, because smoking depletes vitamin C. So it was probably worth looking into sort of increasing your vitamin C rich foods in your diet, and perhaps supplementation with a healthcare practitioner on board with that.
Thank you. Hope that answers your question. Next one is from Andrew. Do you feel that professional advice should be sought and tested done before making changes, or are there things you can do that would be beneficial to everyone? Personally, I think when we're talking about nutritional changes that support the immune system, I think looking at nutrition is something that you can do as long as we're just rebalancing the foods that we're eating. Making sure that, as Shakila described on the plate, that you are getting your good fats, your vegetables, your carbohydrates, your good proteins within your plate, is already going to make sure that your body is taking in more nutrients than it was before. If you're going to make more radical changes like eliminating foods and things like that, I would say to work with a professional to make sure that you're still able to get a balance, because we do find that patients or people tend to restrict, and they end up on a very, very small nutritional plan. And what happens then is that you don't get adequate nutrients, which your body needs to do what it needs to do with your immune system. And that makes the whole cycle a lot worse. Ross?
I think something we can also do is just take it back a step and remember to eat real food. I think that's really important, because obviously when we eat food that comes from kind of highly processed food, you know, we're also ingesting, you know, whatever other ingredients there are in there to kind of stabilize it, or, you know, make it last a long time, etc., etc. So I think kind of a really good message is eating real food, and make, you know, rather than things with lots of different ingredients on the packet.
Anybody like to add anything? Is that, I hope that's okay, Andrew. Nicola has come back to say thank you, and she's described a little bit about her history, and she's going to have a look at the gut microbiome at the next step. So definitely, Nicola, if you want to talk to us more about it, then, you know, please do get in touch with us. We can.
One thing I would maybe say is think about SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Yeah.
In which case, just taking probiotics without testing may not be a good thing, because it can make things worse.
I'd just like to add that I've been working with a patient, and we did a stool test sample, and it was just amazing how, looking at the parts of the microbiome that we can, how it's telling us a story. It's telling us what it's lacking in, and it identifies what we're eating and what we're not eating just by looking at the type of bacteria, the diversity of the bacteria. So yeah, I would really recommend that if you wanted to move forward, to have something like that done, and find out the story that your microbiome is telling you.
Hope that helps, Nicola. The next one is from Ida. I'm looking to reduce the pain in my joints from hypermobility and scoliosis. Is there I can do food-wise for this?
I'd say in a situation like that, I would like to have a look at this individual's food diary and try to understand, you know, what they're eating, and if they are consuming too many inflammatory foods such as sugar, dairy, gluten, and other foods like nightshades as well, which can sometimes cause these type of symptoms in people. So again, it's going back to the source of the food, and trying to identify which foods are sort of, you know, that Ida is consuming, and that may be contributing to her symptoms.
I think when we're thinking about joint pains as well, there is some part of your immune system that's being triggered, and it is showing up as the joint pain. So as Shakila says, if food-wise, we just need to look and see if there are any food triggers, but we would also be wanting to look at other triggers to the immune system, such as any chronic infections or toxins or stressors that could be, that could be driving your immune system to produce the symptoms that you're experiencing. Anybody else want to add anything?
I suppose you might want to know if there's any autoimmunity there, and from our history intake, we would be looking at toxic exposures as well, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Because I think for some people there can be a connection with heavy metals and scoliosis.
And also we know that dysbiosis causes immune complexes of antibody with food particles, and those immune complexes will lodge in joints as well. So again, I'd be keen to look at the gut.
Mm.
Next question is from Maria. I take pre and probiotics, also use beta-glucan, salt pipe with liquid iodine, and increased levels of vitamin C during COVID with the aim of boosting, supporting the immune system. Is this something it would be beneficial to continue with going forward regarding the immune system, or would it be better to reduce these again and only use them in a viral situation, perhaps? Who wants to take that?
I could take that. So I think the salt pipe and liquid iodine come from Dr. Sarah Myhill's protocol from her, I forgot what her book's called, but she talks about having background immune support, but then she calls it, is it acute groundhog day and chronic groundhog day? So if you've got chronic infections, you may want to use these things at a lower level. But if you are starting with an acute viral infection, then you ramp up the support to really support the immune system, because we know that we need more nutrients to, which are all used up by the immune system fighting an infection. So unless you feel, Maria, that you've got a chronic infection, I would probably stop those if you're well, but have them on hand at the first sign if you feel that you've got a viral infection coming on. Maybe just take something like a gram of vitamin C a day as part of your baseline.
I hope that answers your question, Maria. Sharon, my son is 15 on biologicals, infliximab for ulcerative colitis, has adrenal insufficiency due to high dose steroids, and literally can't stay awake and can sleep up to 18 hours a day. Do you think you can help? Nita.
Yeah, we would give it a good try, definitely. We have quite a few patients with autoimmune diseases, inflammatory bowel disease, and we certainly can do quite a lot from a functional point of view. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we need to look at, you know, why have we got the ulcerative colitis and the adrenal insufficiency? What's driving that? Where is the inflammation coming from? Why is it stimulating the immune system to cause so much inflammation and damage? And we are, as functional medical practitioners, we are inflammologists. We are always searching for the root cause of the inflammation. So yeah, we'd give it a good go.
With anything that has got an potential autoimmune kind of background, we're always trying to reduce flare-ups and reduce the effect of the autoimmunity on the body. We never use the word cure because it's not a case of cure, it's about balancing the immune system back up. So it's, as Mita says, it's about uncovering the onion and peeling off each layer to understand where the triggers are. And once we know where the triggers are, if we can support it, you tend to find that your immune system rebalance itself quite naturally. I hope that helps, Sharon. Please, again, you know, if you want to talk in a bit more detail, then we're quite happy to have that conversation with you as well. Next question, in terms of testing, what would you prioritize if you're looking to reduce inflammation and restore balance in the gut?
I'd probably be looking at a comprehensive stool analysis.
Yeah, the comprehensive stool analysis that we do at the practice looks at pretty much the gut from the top down. It looks at how you digest your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates. It looks at the balance of inflammation within the gut. Is your immune system in the gut doing what it needs to do? It looks at the levels of something called short chain fatty acids, which help to nourish the gut and the cells within the gut. And then it looks at the microbiome in itself. And as Mita says, it helps you to understand what's in the gut. It also grows potential bacteria that is causing disruption. It looks at parasites, and some of them actually look at viruses as well. So if we're restoring balance in the gut, there's two ways that I tend to approach it. One is to optimize your nutrition, make sure that your lifestyle factors are as optimal as they can be, And then if things are not settling, then look at the gut. Some people like to just go in for the gut, see exactly what it is, and then put stuff in. So there's a two-way approach that I tend to use for my patients. Ailsa?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Excellent. I hope that helps. Ross has gone on to ask a further question, Meeta. What are your experiences with patients' indications and contraindications with respect to collagen supplements? For example, bone broth, specifically protecting the gut lining. So there's two things there really, collagen supplements and then bone broth.
Well, I personally don't know much about collagen supplements. So I'll open that up to the team. And bone broth, I don't know if Shakila can answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. Bone broth is one of my go-to places when it comes to healing the gut. It contains, collagen from the bones. It contains many sort of key nutrients in there, and it is a very healing and soothing part of the immune system. It's a food that we highly recommend in clinic, and we find that people do particularly well, especially if you're having it on a daily basis, to sort of help with gut lining and the healing of the gut. I would just sort of be a little bit careful if you have any histamine issues, then that's something that we could look at, and sort of maybe you could still have the bone broth but just not have as much of it. But generally most people do very well with bone broth for gut healing and gut support, and also it's wonderful for the immune system as well.
I've only used collagen in a couple of patients. We tend to be looking more to support with our nutrition, and using things like glutamine, which also has a lot of evidence behind supporting the gut healing. But I do know that collagen can be quite a useful supplement for some patients.
I think it can help with joints as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's grand. Hope that's okay, Ross. Now, Wendy was asking, are metal tooth fillings bad? Ooh, that's controversial. Go for it, Ailsa.
Okay. I knew you were going to ask me.
Everybody became quiet.
I mean, certainly when I was working in the environmental medicine practice, we used to do something called lymphocyte sensitivity tests. So it was looking at what your white blood cells were reacting to, and heavy metals was something that came up commonly. We were looking at both organic and inorganic mercury. So one is from things like contaminated fish, and the other is from things like fillings. And I know there was some research that showed that if you expose your metal fillings to hot drinks, how it increases the vaporization of the mercury. So I guess it's dependent on the individual and what your detox capacity is. It's just another thing that's adding into it. It's going into your toxic bucket. If your toxic bucket is already full to overflowing, then that may be something that just tips you over into autoimmunity. But I think it's telling that they don't put metal fillings into children or pregnant women. So if metal fillings were safe, would they still say they wouldn't do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually have a dentist in our local area who has come and spoken to us about this, and I think he's very aware that it does add to your toxic bucket, and it can be something that you need to consider, but it's about doing it at the right time for you, because obviously removing it can cause a lot more issues if you are already quite inflamed at this moment in time.
Yeah. Or you have blockages to your detoxification pathways. And if you are having mercury fillings removed, you have to have them removed by somebody who really knows what they're doing, so that they're not, so you're not going to swallow particles of mercury. And it's not just about protecting you, it's also about protecting the dentist and his dental nurse as well, so that they're not getting exposed.
I hope that's okay, Wendy. Next question, I think that might be the next question is, have you any advice regarding Sjogren's syndrome? Go for it, Mita.
Well, we know that the severity of Sjogren's syndrome is inversely correlated with the microbiome and its diversity. So if you've got plenty of bacteria and plenty of different kind of bacteria in your microbiome, then the severity of the syndrome is less. We know that there's a lot of dysbiosis in the intestinal microbiome with this syndrome, and it's really driven by the abundance of the bacteria as well. So if you have a lot less good bacteria, and you have a lot higher bad bacteria in the gut, then it will really drive the disease. So that's from a gut point of view.
I would also add with Sjogren's is an anti-inflammatory diet would be a good starting point. I correct me if I'm wrong, but it is actually to do with the dryness as well of the mouth and what have you. So just making sure that you've got plenty of good fats in there as well to help with the lining of the cells and the cell membranes. Also, if we were to supplement, making sure it's liposomal so that we can, the absorption of the nutrients are actually entering the cells and helping with the absorption and digestion and sort of cellular health. So yeah, absolutely, an anti-inflammatory food plan would work very well with this kind of syndrome.
I hope that answers your question, Superman.
Superman, I like that.
Well, I think we're coming to the end now. We're going to just wrap things up. Just to say thank you to everybody for coming today and joining us for this webinar. We're probably going to do our next one in the end of July, on July the 30th. And what we might do is actually have it as an open conversation and do a little bit about hormones as well. But yes, we're going to send you all a feedback form. So if there's anything in particular you want us to talk about, or if you'd like to change the format a little bit, then please reach out to us. We're here to give as much information as we can for this different way of working, using both conventional as well as a functional medicine approach. I hope that's okay.
Bye, everyone.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.